Welcome to Newcomers People, where I explore what it means to be an immigrant with immigrants like myself. Today, I'm chatting with Shriya Ghate, who's Shriya. I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your surname properly. Who joins me here to talk about the how different the starting line can be for an immigrant woman. I mean, for any immigrant especially, but we talked about immigrant women here. Who's figuring out, who's figuring out her career, how to live, how to walk in a new country, you know, because like you go to a networking event and they say to you, you know what, you just need to show up and talk about, the things you're doing. What if you're coming from a place where you all don't know how to talk because you all don't do small talk, and you have to kind of start learning that. And so you see, like the starting line is different. But if you're going to get off here, you don't listen to it. But if there's one thing you take, Shriya says, you're never going to be prepared. But once you show up, that's how you move the starting line forward, just by showing up. But yeah, let's get to it. Enjoy her story. So you had this interesting LinkedIn post, and you talked about something that I really like how you put it, because I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I think it's a thing everyone struggles with, which is literally the starting line as an immigrant,
Mhm,
and then it's even doubly the starting line as an immigrant woman,
mhm.
who needs to figure out, what's my career in this new place? Like, how do I live? How do I work in this new country? And I really want, because I felt like what you did in that post was you compressed a whole lot of feelings and stuff into that line. And I'm like, there's a ton in here that Shriya is not saying.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about what you're comfortable talking about in that thing. Like, when you said that starting line, what were you thinking about? Like, when you made that comment or that post on LinkedIn?
So, so the post happened because I was at a networking event, and it was, an interview with the founders of a networking community for women. And as it is, women find it, at least in my experience, a little challenging to network. First of all, it's it can be boring as well, but more than boring, I think it's about, you know, kind of talking to people about what you can offer and, what you bring to the table. And there are so many challenges that women have in any case, at the workplace and in trying to, get ahead. And so this whole discussion about, like, they spent an hour explaining the reason why you need a networking community for women in the first place. And so while I was listening to all of that, it really got me like thinking about the fact that, I mean, imagine the women that have been born and have grown up and have been educated in this context are feeling the need for a networking community, because somewhere, they're not feeling, they're not feeling like they're getting what they need.
Yeah.
um, and then there's us, the immigrant women that have that are not from this context.
Yeah.
We're not born here. We didn't have the advantages. We didn't have the basic network to start with. And so I was just thinking my starting line is way, way behind this.
I know.
I have to start with my basic needs, like, where am I going to buy food? How do I pay for the bus? It's about, like, I remember my first few days. I immigrated by myself alone, and it was mid-pandemic, and I came in and I was like, just a few days of just feeling a little unsafe as well, because um, I don't know where to go, what to do. Like, I need to figure out the geography of this place. And just being alone, like all of these things. And then I remember after the event speaking to somebody, and she said she came with her husband, And although she came with her husband, she was still feeling lonely. Like she still had to figure out all of those things on her own. And then it just got me thinking, gosh, like my starting line is way, way behind this. So I gotta first like come up to where these women are. And then from this point, I get to go forward, you know? And that's just the life stuff, but there's also the work stuff.
Yeah.
How do you make small talk? I have no idea. And it's so different, like, you know, in every culture and every country. What do I make small talk about? That's the
Yeah.
basic of networking. It, you know, some of us don't even know how to small talk.
Yeah.
Like, and we come from such different cultures. Like in my culture, you don't talk to strangers. Like you get in an elevator, you don't say hello, you know?
Gosh, God, immigration is such an interesting thing, honestly. Sorry, I mean, I felt like you still had more to say. I'm sorry, don't let me stop you, please. Don't let me stop you.
No, it's this is going to sound like a rant, you know, if you
And that's
don't stop me,
okay.
but
And
yeah,
that's okay, honestly. And that's okay. Because you're right. You're actually right. Is what is really small talk? I mean, I don't watch the same shows you watch. I don't know anything about your I'm learning about your culture.
exactly.
So I don't even know where to start from. And I mean, this doesn't change the fact that yes, I need to do the work to try to understand all those things. But it's just kind of acknowledging that where I'm coming from and acknowledging that not everyone will probably be able to do that at the same speed, you
Yeah.
know. So you're right. It's hard. Like it's hard. And I can't imagine how it is if you because I moved with my wife, so it's probably you have someone
Hmm.
and you still feel lonely because yes, I did feel lonely, and I'm sure my wife felt the same way too. And I can just imagine moving alone. It's like
Yeah.
it's like so you have to figure everything out yourself, and you come back home, and then you call home, and it doesn't help because I feel like when you call, like I wonder, should you call home or shouldn't you call home? Because you call home because you want to call home, but you call home and you drop the call, and you just fall into this deep hole of okay, was it really wise to leave all these people and come
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. It yeah, and it sometimes, like you said, like calling home just leaves you feeling worse. Also because you want to be here and you want to just go through it. Like you do not want that escape because if you get that escape for a few minutes, then you're back in it again and you're like, okay, now what do I do? You know?
And it's 4 years now. And it's interesting because it's 4 years, and this event happened a couple of months ago, I think, or a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But if you look at yourself this past 4 years, like what has been the biggest thing that has changed, and or what did you assume changed? And then when you reflect on that and reflect on the things you're thinking about while that networking, when you came to that realization about the starting line, do you think they changed as much as you assumed, or I don't know if I'm making sense in that. It's a very interesting question. I'm just trying to understand. You know how when we move, we grow,
Yes.
we change in ways we don't understand, and we also change in ways we assume we understand.
Hmm.
But then things like this happen where some things trigger stuff in you, and you start asking yourself if you've actually changed at all. So, do you think you've changed, or do you think that you just assumed you changed, but not everything changed as much as you thought it was going to change?
No, I would say there's definitely been a change. The fact that I feel confident enough to even show up to an
Hmm.
event like that, like just the showing up itself,
Yeah.
I think is a big change. Because there were so many things that I worried about, like what will I, this is gonna sound so silly, but like what should I wear to an event like this? What should I say to the people that I meet? How should I greet people? All of those things, because now living and working here, because of all the interactions I've had, I've built up a certain level of confidence that allows me to even show up. But having gone there, like I said, like after listening to all of that, I was like, gosh, if these women are having issues, I can't imagine, like, or they can't imagine my issues, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've had someone say on the podcast, Derek Sivas, he says that it's the immigrant's job to be understood. So you don't expect the local to do the work of trying to understand you. It's your job to be understood. I have also had someone say to me that immigrants are connectors. So immigrants are advocates and ambassadors. And there's a difference. So we are ambassadors for where we are coming from. So it's like, hey, I'm Indian or I'm Nigerian. This is how we do things. And we are advocates for the new culture we learn, because then we can advocate for change in our home country or with our culture, with our people. Like, oh, this could be done better because I saw them do it this way. And so what that means in the end that we are bridges and we kind of bring things together. But then also the while all that sounds really nice, I think it's the work to acknowledge that and see that strength is what you're kind of mentioning here, because every now and then you get reminded that there's a ton of stuff I still don't know, I still don't understand, and
Yeah,
that in itself limits me from sometimes just showing up as my full self, because I'm always second guessing or thinking or wondering if it's enough. Because I mean, just see what you just said. It sounds simple, but it's a lot. And please don't make it sound like as if it's that easy. No, it's true when you say, "What am I going to wear?" It's a real
yes,
thing. Like
yes,
it sounds simple, but it is a huge thing. Is how do I show up here? Do I show up as Indian? Do I show up
yes.
as Canadian? Or I don't even know if I'm Indian enough anymore. But I'm still not Canadian enough.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you feel like you're in a third space. You don't belong
Yeah,
anymore to your home country. You don't fully
yeah.
belong to your new country, and you're just in this third place, which is actually kind of great because it's a good amalgam
Hmm.
of everything. And it gives you flexibility to now create a new identity for yourself, and to really figure out who you are, because it's not just an opportunity to figure out who you are like as a professional, but
Yeah,
also as a person. What are the things that you're going to like put your time in? Where are you going to invest your energies? Where are you not going to do that? What are the things you like and what are the things you don't like? It gives you an opportunity to start over, but in a good way as well. Like I feel like starting over, because this thing of like coming here and starting over sometimes has this context of it's really hard, and why do we have to do it? And I've gone through that and I understand what that is. But in a way, it also gives you the opportunity to start over in more positive ways for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I just went off on a tangent.
No, no, I know that's okay. And I think that I like that frame, because it's so easy to say, it's so easy to fall in the trap of saying, oh, it's so hard and it's all that. But there's also what you're saying is, I mean, like Joe Hudson of Art of Accomplishment says, he's a coach, and he says, when stuff happens, you ask yourself, what's awesome about that? And really,
Hmm.
it's such a beautiful frame. Is what's awesome about moving to a new country is that I have the opportunity to say, okay, I don't want to be a project manager anymore. I want to be a dancer, and I'm going to
Yes.
go learn how to do that. Or I want to learn how to eat this way, or how to talk this way, or how to behave this way. Because why it's also good is that I think, and I maybe there are studies that show this, I think that your brain in that process of where it's forced to learn new things kind of regenerates and be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do something new, and you become smarter in the process. So
Hmm.
what's awesome about that? Really, a ton of stuff. Just
Yes.
like there are things that are not that great about it too. You
Yeah.
know, if you now let's kind of go back to 4 years ago when you moved here. What were the first few months like?
Wow, they were interesting to say the least. So I should tell you that I had a context of being an immigrant because I went to the UK to do my master's.
Okay.
And that was a different experience because I went there as a student. So I had that sense of community because I had my classmates, I had the university. And so that thing was kind of built in for me, that
Mm.
experience as part of my immigrant experience. After my master's, I had the same struggles finding jobs. I remember sending like 500 job applications, not hearing back, going through that entire thing of, questioning myself like, is it me? Is it where I come from? Is it like what's going on? And then eventually I had to leave the UK and go back to India. I never wanted to do that. And so coming back out from my country after I did my master's, then like 7 years went by, and then it was time again for me to immigrate. So I made a few changes this time. I said, I'm not going to go as a student, I'm going to go as a permanent resident because I want to avoid the anxiety of, that cloud over my head that
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
be
The
thrown
timeline
out or
or something.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I came with that, but that entire experience of having been an immigrant once before was weighing on me to such a degree that I was literally like, should I go? Should I not? Should I go? Should I not? Until the very, very last minute. Because it's so hard. And like I had experienced it before. So this time when I came, the one thing that I told myself was, I'm just going to go through it. Like, I'm not going to bring my ego into it. I'm not going to bring any expectations into it because I remember but the first time I did it, there were a lot of expectations. So the second time around, I said, you know what? I'm just going to make this work no matter what happens. So I think that attitude helped me a little bit to kind of make adjustments with how things were in the first few weeks because I came like I think just at the beginning of fall, so the weather was obviously very different from what I'm used to. It was mid-pandemic. There was really nothing happening. Like a lot of the restaurants were closed, a lot of places were closed. I wasn't getting the Canada experience the way I should, like a first world experience.
Yeah.
And you had to wear masks, you had to live alone, like
Yeah.
everything that the pandemic brought with itself.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone that I knew didn't live in my part of the city. They were all very, very far away. So it was isolating. It was a little bit jarring, but I think I was just because I had come with that attitude that, I'm going to make it work and I'm going to go through this. And I know it's hard. But I'm going to do it anyway. I think that really helped me kind of get past the first few weeks.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to come back to this topic because I want us to
Yeah,
explore it more, but I want to go back some before I forget it, which is when you moved back to Canada to the India from the UK,
yeah.
did you experience what they call reverse cultural shock?
Oh, absolutely. It was, I was just like, why did I, like, I didn't want to do this, like the noise and, the pollution and just dealing with people. And it's, I think, again, it's again about like context shifts, right? Like, you
Yes.
change yourself to a particular context and then you have to change yourself back
Yes.
to that
Yes.
context, and in the meantime, like you said, you've changed, you've
Yes.
grown.
Yeah.
And so
You're not the same.
you're not the same, so how do you go back to being part of that initial context again in this new personality, in this new being that you are, right? So
You don't ever go back again. I don't think you ever win that battle. I think you just find a way to make it work.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just
Yeah.
find a way to make it work. It's amazing how the human, like, they say human beings are adaptable. I don't know if we're adaptable. I mean, I think we adapt,
Hmm.
but the way it's described, where they describe it as if we adapt and forget everything. I don't know if we do that. I think we adapt, but we struggle while adapting. So we survive more like it.
Yes.
But all the perspectives and biases and context, as you call it, that we're carrying with us, they stay with us. And every single day, we have to sort of always be battling with. shifting between the different contexts and choosing the one that shows up, so that
Hmm.
we survive in our new environment. Maybe the world is survive, not adapt, honestly.
Yeah.
So, there's something interesting in this part of you saying, you struggled in India and stuff. But then when it was time to leave, you are like, you are in show. So what was
Yeah.
going on there, honestly?
It was just, I think I didn't want a repeat of the unpleasantness that I had to go through,
Mm,
especially the job search, because
yeah.
I was coming without a job. I was alone. Um, whenever I tell this to people, they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, "Oh, so you moved mid-pandemic, just by yourself, without a job?"
You're
You
brave.
know, like how? Why? Why did you do this to yourself? And I remember having that PTSD of applying for 500 jobs and not hearing back. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go out there again and it's going to be the same thing, you know, different context, but this time I'm prepared that it's
Mm,
going to be the same thing. But of course, like any human,
yes, yeah. We
you
hate
want to
pain.
avoid that
We hate
experience.
pain.
Yeah.
We hate pain. We hate discomfort. So, and immigration is like you saying to yourself, I want to suffer somehow to some
Yeah.
extent and get used to it.
Yes. And so that's why. And also, of course, like leaving your family behind, leaving your comfort zone behind. Um, and I think part of it also, I don't know if others have spoken about this, but you have a good understanding of where what your place is in the world back
Yes.
home.
Oh
You know
gosh.
what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and when you come here, it's like, what is my place in the world? Where do I sit in amongst all of this now? And then it's about creating that new place for yourself. Um, a lot of it is also like it took me a while to recognize that what I left behind, like the 12 years of experience that I left behind in India, also had a place here. And like, how do I bring that in to my, work here? I don't feel like um, I fully reap the benefits of the 12 years that I got back at home. Like, I still feel like it, I could have used it to communicate it better. But again, like I said, as an immigrant, trying to figure out how do I communicate that? How do I make that part of my new context? Um, and then is that really like, I feel like my starting line is five places behind, but maybe with this experience, it's not five places behind. Maybe it's just two
Yeah.
places behind. So all of those, like trying to figure out all of that, and then applying like for the jobs and like getting all of that confidence back was obviously a journey like that. It's still a journey. It still goes on.
Yeah. I mean, the Canadian government says that I think you're a newcomer for like 5 years. I was saying to someone, I think it should be 10 years actually, because we wouldn't let a 5-year-old baby, a 5-year-old kid, walk on the streets without a parent,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And even though you're an adult and you can do things, I do think that 5 years is too short to say you can understand the city or a country. I think 5 years is just when you are about to begin start to saying, I can at least now talk without worrying about,
Yeah.
I can at least talk. Just talk,
Yes.
you know. Before you now start saying, I think I know someone who described the journey. She used her teenage cousin's nephew's journey rather to describe her immigration journey. She says she's now a teenager as an immigrant. She's been in
Hmm.
Canada for like 14 or 15 years or so, if I remember correctly. And she's like, now I'm getting confident. I'm beginning to try things out. And I think that's how the immigrant is. It's like the first 5 years, you're literally just trying to even figure out how to open your mouth. Like and just
Yeah.
say hi. you know, you don't feel settled. Because I'm like, I'm here. I've been here 4 years too. I moved here mid-pandemic, 2021, January 2021, no, February 4th, 2021. And like you, the first year, I was like, why? Who sent me here? Like, why did I come here? What was I doing? What was I thinking when I decided to come here? And I came here with a wife and a kid. And by 6 months after we had a second kid, I'm like, okay, this is not funny anymore. I now have a second human being to take care of in
Mm,
all this thing where I'm not sure of who I am and what I am, what I'm doing here.
yeah.
You know, I want to ask this question, which is India, UK, back to India, to Canada. Who's Shriya now? Indian, Canadian? Indian?
Gosh, I have no idea.
Canadian? British, Indian, Canadian?
World citizen.
I like that. I like that actually. That's fair, to say because you're right. You mentioned something, and I've heard that a lot, and I say that a lot, which is that once you move, you don't belong anywhere again to some extent. It's a reality that most people don't want to face, but that's just the truth. Like
Yeah.
I never fully fit into Nigeria anymore. When I go back to Nigeria, I complain about some things, or because I just don't understand it. And in Canada here, there's some things I don't fully understand. Maybe as you get older, maybe you will, because I really want to talk to immigrants that have spent 40 years, 40, 50 years in a place and
Hmm.
see what it's like. Do they fully, are they fully still part of the country yet, or are they still struggling like me to find themselves? But you haven't answered my question yet. I mean, you said world citizen, but really, let's dig deep. I'm not gonna let you get away that easily. Like, what's your
Mm,
sense of identity like right now for you? Like, what do you call yourself?
I guess I guess I don't still feel like I don't want to say I feel Canadian fully at all yet. And like you said, it's probably people who live here for like 30 or 40 years that really start to feel like, okay, I belong here. I still very much feel Indian because that's where I was born and I, grew up and, got educated and all of that. And yes, I spent like 3 years in the UK, but I definitely don't feel anything British. Um, although in India you have a lot of that British culture because of our
Yes,
history and all
yeah,
of that.
yeah,
Um, and in some ways you do feel closer to that culture
yeah.
because of the historical reasons. But um, I feel Indian Canadian, you could say. More Indian and a little bit Canadian.
Hmm. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm curious. I'm curious why you spent 3 years in Britain. You spent 4 years here, so the
Yeah.
difference isn't that much. But it feels like here feels more like home than
Yes.
Britain. Is it like? I mean, yeah, I know you've left. You left there, moved back home, and all that. So that could play a role. But is there
Mhm.
something more to that? Like, is it a function of the British culture is something that you see back home? So it didn't feel like you moved between places, which I would somehow say, yeah, there are huge differences when you move between countries. But just curious, like why?
I think it was the returning back to India. I think that has a huge part to play in that. Because now in my mind, the UK feels like, okay, I went there to study. I really
Ah,
enjoyed my experience and then I came back to India. Um, but also, I want to say that I remember like the first few months when I moved to Canada, I felt a marked difference in the way that compared to my experience in England. I felt like here I could really make a place for myself. I saw a lot of immigrants. Like I would just, I didn't know anyone, so I would just generally see people in a supermarket, or I would see people just outside, and I would see a lot of people like me. who were happy and like who were with their families, and they all had nice things to say. And the people that had immigrated here before me, who I knew, whether directly or indirectly, were doing well or were on their way to building a life that they wanted. So there was always that. And then, of course, the stage at which I came here to Canada, I was older, wiser, was a little more prepared. I made my own network of people. Like I went to a lot of these meetup groups, which I found very
Yeah.
useful. And I did a lot of networking, and I was able to create that, safety net for myself in a sense, which I think all contributed to that feeling of, feeling like home. And then eventually, of course, I met my husband here. So now and he's been here for much longer than I have. So just, that also rubs off, like, because he's so comfortable in this context. I feel a little more comfortable. So
Well, that's good to hear. Actually, that's
yeah.
all. Having a partner who understands and can help show you the ropes and be like, "Yo, yeah, just do it this
Yes,
way." It kind of keeps you, it tides you over every now and then. And you're right. I think there's one strength Canada has that we need to lean into more is that Canada is the one place where you feel like you can just be yourself. Like I've heard people say to me that this is the one country where I could take all my full identities of being Indian and Canadian, or Nigerian and Canadian, or French and Canadian, without it looking like as if I was fighting to hold on to one of them. Like you just be yourself and find your way. You know, we're wrapping up now, and I think the last question I have is: how has this move affected your relationships back home? Like, how do you, with family back home, still closer, a bit distant, a bit okay here and there, especially because I feel like you're a two-time immigrant, so you've seen it before, and I'm just wondering if you took the lessons from the British, your experience in the UK to say this is how I'm going to do it now, or no, it doesn't matter. You have to always face it afresh every single time.
I would say you have to face it afresh every single time. At least that's been my experience. Because again, context. So it's so
Yes.
different, so unique, right? And also, you as a person have
Hmm.
changed. So that
Yeah.
context is also unique. As far as my relationships with my family and my friends is concerned, um, I feel, in a sense, even closer now because of the distance. Um, I'm not gonna say that I'm better at keeping in touch because I'm not. I could keep in touch more, and my friends, if they're watching this, they will kill me if I say that I feel closer.
I was like, that's a confession, but yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
But in a sense, because they've seen you, like especially friends, right? Like they've seen you at a time when they've seen you either grow up or they've
Yeah.
seen you in your what like in your prime, so to speak,
Yeah.
because you left there at a certain position and a certain level,
Hmm.
um, and they've seen your growth, and so the friendships that I make here are never gonna compare to that. Like the depth of friendship. That's the other thing I miss here, like that kind of depth of friendship that I had with
Back
friends
home.
back home. And so it makes it all the more precious to have those friends back home, and family as well. I feel because I spend so less time with them, they become even more precious to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That friendship part, do you think it's a cultural thing or it's a thing of they knew you when they've known you for a longer time? I mean, because I wonder if it's a function of just the North American culture of where it's almost a bit individualistic, very economic driven culture in a way. It's just work, work, work and stuff. Unlike back home where they still work, but there's still community and stuff. So I'm just wondering if the friendship thing is a function of that, like that, and that's the reason why we probably will might not build those sort of friendships we build back home, or is a function of they knew me when I was younger.
I think that it's like the culture has so much to do with it, right? Like the one of the first thing that struck me was people have a calendar here. Like they have their weeks planned so much in advance. I'm just like, and I'm used to just picking up the phone and being like, hey, do you
Where
want to
are
hang out?
you?
Yeah, you
Gosh,
know. And here it's like,
gosh.
oh no, my Saturday is planned, or my, my 2 weeks from now I'm doing this. And I was like, initially I found it so weird because I can't just show up to your house. I can't just like make plans with you, um, spontaneously. Um, and so that was one part of it. And the second was um, not asking too many personal questions. You know how it is back home. Like people are not
Yeah.
afraid to like just get into it, right?
Yeah.
And so at some level you're just like, okay, how much longer am I going to talk about movies and the weather and all of those other things before I can like really get into it?
Yeah, like let's talk. Like, did we come talk
Exactly.
about like it's and it's that thing you said earlier on about small talk. I think that's the reason why a lot of us struggle with small talk because you have to now learn how to just stay on the surface and just talk and talk and talk and talk and
Yeah.
talk. Because it takes much longer to build trust here for people to open up to you. Unlike back
Yes.
home where you probably met someone the first time or second time and they're telling you everything about their family. Or like sometimes it's too much, sometimes
Yes.
it's necessary. You know. Hmm. But yeah, thank you so much. But again, and thanks for raising that point about the starting line. I haven't thought about it that way before, but it's so real. Like that's really what it is. The starting line is very different. And you have
Yeah.
to just kind of hit every single time you're reminded of that when you do certain things. You're just reminded about how different the starting line is and how you have to work 2 times harder to just kind of pretend to catch up, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, if there's one thing I just want to say about this, like the last thing I want to say is that I don't think you'll ever be fully ready to, to go to an event like this or to go and put yourself out there, but you just have to be okay with it. Like you just have to show up, and that's how you push the starting line forward. Like
Mm,
just show up. You're never going to be ready, but just show up. And that's the only way you can really get ahead.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really, really, thank you, Shriya. Thank you, and
Yeah, and
thank you.
no, and thank you for inviting me on here and just even getting me to think about these things, because your immigrant experience, you just kind of you go through it without thinking about it really.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then when you take this time to just, um, really have a have some perspective on it, or just kind of even look back at it, I think it leaves you feeling more empowered in a sense. So thank you for doing that, because there's so much self-awareness that a
Yeah.
conversation like this can bring, and reinforce that, like you are somebody, you hold a space in this world, and you can make something new out of all of this. So thank you for that.
You just made my weekend, honestly. Well, thanks again. Really appreciate you coming on this. Yeah, thanks for saying that to me. Thank you. That was a good one. Thank you so much for listening to this. Like, really, thank you so much. Um, as always, if you know someone we should talk to, send them my way. We're on Substack, YouTube, anyway you get a podcast. So please like, share, subscribe. Just support us. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day.